Hey guys, LMN here for another deck profile, and we are actually looking again at Metalgarurumon, specifically the BT14 version. I managed to finally update this deck, and I actually did take it to locals as of this recording, and it did pretty well. I don't know how I got fourth place with this, so pretty decent out of like 8 people. It was pretty solid. This deck actually performed really well. With the new babies, we are actually running new eggs finally. And we are also running the new trainings, which actually did help me go for a game. There was a match where I basically had 3 memory exactly, and I already had a Gobblemon out and a stack that was just kind of sitting there. And because of that, I managed to go for 4 checks in one turn because of the 2 trainings that were stacked here. So pretty gross because I managed to make a 0 cost, basically Garurumon. Then I made a Garurumon that well, I can't use it with the purple, sadly. That's the one downside to this deck, is that the trainings do not work with the purple Were Garurumon from the starter deck, which really sucks, but that's just how it is. But aside from that, it was really strong. It actually performed much better than I would. The only loss I honestly had was against Yellow Vaccine, but that deck heals insanely as much as Security Control, so it was just kind of hard for me to finish checking without losing the stack over and over. So that was mainly a wash. That was like mainly one of the few things that can really stop us. But yeah, no, we had some pretty good matchups and it was pretty cool. Let's actually get into the deck so I could show you what I mean by the changes I made. Some of this deck is different and some of it is kind of the same, but at the same time, there are a few things that I honestly would change. Specifically, one of the options and one of the tamers, I would reduce the tamer by 1, but I'll get into that once we get into it. So first, for the eggs, we are running the new BT14 Bukamon. This card actually came in really clutch because almost every time after you push out the stack of Garurumon, your stack will always be bigger, especially because the game is to basically make Were Garuru here and push him out. And usually with the X antibody stuff, you're basically making a stack that's at 5 or 6 underneath him. So you're basically guaranteed to just have a bigger stack than them because most decks currently do not really do that big of a stack. Their main thing is to just kind of swarm, like with Fenrir and Digipolice. So with this, you basically have the biggest stack, and you have jamming in the process, and you have battle protection. So if they tend to block something and it's too big, you can always detach to just do it again, which is really cool. By not do it again, but I mean specifically that you can survive the attack, which is really cool. Really solid. But yeah, this egg came in really clutch, and it actually helped me. Honestly, I feel like this was the main contributing factor of winning because now I basically never had to detach parts, so I could save all of the detaching specifically for when they swung into my guy or they blocked something, basically. So really solid. And you have to run this one because it's really good. Like, yes, you lose out on the draw without Sunomon, or in the case of Sunomon getting the boost, but you really don't need a boost when you have jamming. So, it just kind of defeats the purpose at that point. For level 3s, we of course run the 12 standard. We run the BT5 Gabumon because it's one of our main searchers. It's also a 0 cost evolution, so pretty cool. Then we run 4 of the old starter deck 8 Gabumon that gives us plus 1000, but it feels kind of moot now, especially with the fact that Bukamon just gives us jamming by default. So sometimes, though, this does come up, especially when you're swinging into their Digimon and you can overpower it. So I do still run this just in case. This will be coming out once we get the new Gabumons and like the dual colors and all that stuff. So, then we run 4 Gobblemon-X antibodies. This is our secondary searcher, and of course you can evolve this for 0 in raising on top of him or him, and you basically get so when you evolve him out here, you get an extra search. So if you hard play this, then evolve in this, you basically get 2 searches because of the evolution stuff. So pretty solid, and this one grabs an X antibody, so pretty solid. Yeah, so we run these 12 specifically, and yeah, that's our rookies. Let's see. Then for level 4s, we of course run the 4 Garurumons. Shout out to my friend Steven for helping me get the 4th foil from the reprint set. This Garurumon is still busted beyond belief. The fact that his when attacking is not once per turn is actually kind of broken, because the fact that you can do at least 3 to 4 checks in one turn. So every time when you swing, you get an extra card, and it fulfills the requirement of the other the limited promo Were Weregaruru that says you can get security attack +1 if you have 8 or more cards, which this deck does easily thanks to this guy. So you have to run at least 4 copies. Then we run 4 Garurumon-X because we do like protection, especially when we don't. This is mainly just, at this point in this new build, it's mainly there to keep it alive against bigger Digimon that your opponent might make to swing into this. Especially when they DP reduce you, you might be a little bit weaker. Usually you can survive the DP reduction, thankfully, thanks to the all turns effect. But at the same time, this is just there to kind of like a backup plan, basically. But I never really swing in unless I have Garurumon-X. I only did that once during one of my matches, and I feel like it actually cost me one of the games, which really sucked. So I usually just, as a policy going forward, to just always swing when I have this in the stack, so that way I have double protection from this and this. Then for the last level 4, we run 2 Garurumons, the BT5 one that basically when you evolve it, you gain a memory if it has Gabumon specifically, not Gabumon-X, but it has to be Gabumon specific in its sources, it'll gain back a memory. It does also give a +1000, but with the jamming, it doesn't really do much. This is just mainly for a stack that's out here that doesn't have the same jamming protection, so it's still really solid, and I really like the crystal art for this. It's really solid. That's all for the level 4s. We run exactly 10, which is basically the standard for Metal Guru going forward almost. There are variations that people do, but I feel 10 is pretty... It's pretty solid, honestly. Like, I've always drawn them. There was a match where I just drew all 4 of these, but then I have one Guru, so it's fine. But yeah. For level 5s, we kind of changed up the ratio from before. Before we were running 4 of the new purple Weregaruru, but I reduced it down to 3 to fit in another level 5, specifically 1 Sagittarius mode, because Sagittarius mode actually helps in removing a lot of stuff that they kind of leave on board, especially level 3s. So really solid, and of course he does give the same protection as Garuru-X, so when you don't draw him but you draw him, you have the protection, which is really nice. Then, of course, we run the promo Weregaruru because he's still broken. Then we run 3 of the Weregarurumon-X still because this one, basically every game I won was because I unsuspended with this and swung for game. So you have to run at least 3. I know some builds do run 4 copies, but I'm kind of splitting it between all these, so it's just kind of hard to fit everything. But it's exactly 8 level 5s, which is the standard. So you basically get basically the best scenario is to go into the Weregaruru, the purple one specifically, and then swing, unsuspend, then evolve into Sagittarius to basically swing again, and then go into Weregaruru-X with the X antibody and just swing and just do like, basically in total you should be doing like 3 checks minimum, so really solid. That's all for level 5s. For level 6s, we of course are running 2 of the Metalgaruru Aces from the starter deck. Still really solid. It's the only downside, honestly, to this card is just that overflow, which is why I don't really use him unless I really have to. Normally, I'm evolving into Metalgaruru-X when I swing rather than this because it does hurt you really bad in the long run, and there are a lot of deletion effects around lately. So I only go into this if I know I have game, which I did for one of my games against Digipolice. So that was the main thing because I already had jamming with Bukamon, which is why I felt safe to swing in with this. Also, the fact that he can cost 0 if you discard 3 cards, plus the fact that when he swings, he deletes basically a Digimon with the lowest level, so you can just kill their small guys, so that way they don't have a way, like especially against Digipolice, they don't have that resource to pop to protect the other guys, so really solid. But you just run 2, that way your main focus is to go into Metalgaruru-X, not him, until we honestly get the new one from BT14, we're still running this. And speaking of Metalgaruru-X, we of course run 3 copies of him because he is the main level 6 of the deck. He's really busted, especially against Swarm decks, because he bounces all of your opponent's Digimon with the lowest level. So if your opponent spam the board in Digipolice with level 4s or just all level 4s or all level 3s, you just bounce all their level 3s back to hand and they don't get to activate their effects in the process. So pretty solid. Also the fact that he unsuspends and becomes a blocker, so pretty solid. Also, and the thing is that the unsuspending works even when he unsuspends at the start of the main phase, so, or at the start of your turn basically, so you get to bounce something if it survives until the next turn, which is really nice. So gotta run 3 copies of this. That's all for level 6. We don't run that many. We run exactly 5. I know there are some builds that are like running like Zed and like the other Metalgarurus and the other stuff, but I feel this is already really solid, so I just stick with this. For level 7s, we only run 2, but they're basically the same guy, but just different versions of him. One Omni Blitz, because we want to blitz for game. Also has protection against removal, which is really good. Unless it's DP reduction, and then we run one Omni X to go for game. I actually won a game specifically because I had the X antibody underneath this, and I swung and removed their last security and went for game with him. Also, the fact is that when attacking and when digivolving, you can just bottom deck something and remove something off the board, which is really strong. So you gotta run at least one of each. And yeah, that's basically it for the Digimon of the deck. The rest of the deck is just mainly the options and then the tamers, which as I mentioned before, I do want to change. So first off, the option we are running, of course, is 3 brand new mental trainings. This card honestly won me a game, so I feel you have to run at least 3 because 2 you don't see it as often, but 3 you see it a lot, especially in security and in your hand. So really solid card. The fact that it reduces the cost of an evolution is really strong. The fact that it lets you look at 2 cards and grab any blue cards, so basically the whole deck except for the Omnis and the Garuru, which is not honestly that bad. So pretty solid. You have to run at least 3 of these. Then we run 1 Ice Wall per blue, always running Ice Wall. And then this is the clutch card that I honestly want to add one more copy of. Supreme Cannon actually won me the game against Digipolice, I feel, because I had a Garuru on board, and because they checked into this, it bounced the whole board. So, because it became 5,000 DP or less, so it hit their level 4s as well, so it was really strong. The other option we ran was Sorai, but I honestly never really had a need to play this. I only played it once against Yellow Vaccine and it didn't really do anything. I feel like it'd be better to just run a second Supreme Cannon because it actually hurts a lot of Swarm decks. So I'm going to be taking this out for a second Supreme Cannon because this is just so strong. But yeah, then the last options we run are 3 X antibodies. This card is really busted, especially the fact that you get to gain a memory and security, and you get to Digivolve when attacking. So really strong. You have to run at least 3, so you're able to just skip into this when you're swinging with this. So yeah, that's all the options in the deck. For Tamers, we just run 2. We run 3 Cool Boys and 1 Davis. But Davis, honestly, every time he showed up, he won me a game. So I'm feeling like taking out one of these to fit in a second Davis because Cool Boy is good, but he only works when you're doing the X stuff out here and not in your raising. So I feel having a second Davis is really cool because you having 3 memory matters a lot now in this format, especially with Fenrir and Digipolice out. So I will be replacing this and this with different cards now because of just locals today, just seeing how it worked. And yeah, that's basically the new version of this deck, honestly. Like, as you know, this is one of like the channel's basically this is one of my favorite decks alongside Machine Dramon and like Security Control. So I really want this deck to do well, and it actually did pretty well. The only downside is that it still can't really do anything about options or like hard effect removals. But aside from that, you really don't care because you basically swing and draw like an entire hand's worth of a line, and then you just do it again in the process. So it's pretty solid, honestly. It's just losing the options really hurts, or it just really sucks in general. But it's not honestly that bad because you can just rebuild no matter what. Aside from that, the deck felt basically the same as usual. Business as usual, and the fact that we're getting new dual color cards in the next set, which will help this deck go even higher in power and becomes basically tier 1 again, which is really nice. And the fact that you could still run all this and still make the deck work, so pretty cool. And yeah, that's basically it for the deck profile. As usual, I say this is just a template for you guys to use to build your own version. And aside from that, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you thought of this, and I'll see you guys next time.